This is Jay Christopher, Muhammad on the Jay Christopher Experience, and I got my man, brother Adrian here, who was on the front lines in Ferguson, and we were talking, and his energy was raw and passionate and expressing, what he was seeing. So I asked if we could record it, and he agreed. So, yes, sir, brother. If we can start from the top of what you saw.
Yes, sir. So, the first thing that I was really struck by was just how much the cops that are responding to the situation in Ferguson really don't care about the court of public opinion.
Yes, sir.
They don't care about the fact that the world sees them as terrorizing us. They don't care about the fact that Amnesty International, for the first time in their existence, is being deployed to the United States City because of violations of international law.
That's right.
They don't care about our constitutional right of freedom of assembly or freedom of speech. They have this agenda that they're going to forcefully stop us from protesting them no matter what, whatever it takes.
And what is it?
They have zero regard for our humanity or our rights as citizens of the United States.
Yes, sir. So what did you see when you got out there? I mean, 'cause I know you came out from Houston. I'm sorry.
I participated with a group of about a dozen people called the Peacekeepers, wearing T-shirts that said the word Peacekeepers across the front. Our intention was to serve as a buffer between the police and the protesters so that we could attempt to keep the police from being overly militaristic in their response to the people, and attempt to keep the people from being overly antagonistic toward the police, attempt to keep people from being hurt as much as possible.
Yes, sir.
We arrived shortly before 9 o'clock, I believe, and as soon as we got out of our cars moving down the floors and into the area of Ground Zero, we saw people coming in our direction saying that they had started with the tear gas. A full 3 hours before the time of the state-imposed curfew.
Wow. So it's around 9 o'clock, you're saying, or a little sooner?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. There was a large group of people out there. Their cops command center was farther down West Florissant, past the Canfield Green Apartments. The crowd started from the area of Chambers and West Florissant going toward the police area.
Yes, sir.
The strategy of the cops seemed to be that every 30 minutes or so, they would clear out about a block of the area of the protesters.
How did they clear them out?
They would come through with one or two tanks, literal tanks, and someone would come off the top of it, shooting canisters of tear gas, shooting rubber bullets, and dropping smoke bombs. So that the smoke bomb sets off a loud sound, which obviously scares people.
Mm-hmm.
It completely blankets the area with smoke. The tear gas blinds you, burns your lungs, makes it hard to breathe. There are people out there throwing up in the tear gas, getting hit with the canisters and being hurt by those, being severely wounded by the rubber bullets. They will clear out a block and then go back to their command center and wait. About 30 more minutes or so, they would come through and clear out another block.
Okay.
And I was attempting to understand the mindset behind why they were doing this. They did about 3 or 4 of these sweeps before they ever said anything about leave or you will be arrested. Disperse or you will be arrested.
Wow.
they started doing this without saying anything.
So it's totally unprovoked, basically.
Totally unprovoked, no reason, logically, nothing they could be responding to in the people that would produce this kind of response, and even no warning about why they were doing it or move before you get this. They just did it. They wanted to hurt us.
Goodness.
I was wondering if their agenda was for there to not be any protest at all that night, even though that's completely unconstitutional. I could understand if they did that and they stated that as their intention and enacted that plan. However, the way it played out, because they didn't just go through and clear out the whole crowd like they easily could because they were in military tanks, it seemed like they were playing with us, like they were playing a video game. They would clear out a block and then go back and laugh about it for a while and then come back and clear out another block and go back and laugh again. That's the way it felt.
You said earlier that it looked like they enjoyed it.
Yes.
How does it? What did you see that gave that impression?
Just for the little bit of, at a certain point, the group that I was with really was the buffer between the cops and the crowd. We were in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
After a couple of blocks had been cleared out, we were the closest group to the crowd. So on one of these sweeps, when they came through with the tear gas, I was able to actually see them coming out the top of the tank.
Wow.
It looked like they were enjoying themselves.
Yes, sir. That's sick. Yes, sir. So how much tear gas would you say was being thrown? And, you said rubber bullets and smoke bombs.
It seemed like an infinite supply. I don't know.
Yes, sir. But it was like you couldn't escape it, in essence.
Yeah. And every sweep, it would be, there was unable to count how many, because you could hear them being shot. And you would lose count. It was just more than you could count.
Right.
And be able to respond to the situation at the same time.
Right. So it wasn't like one or two. It was just a barrage of...
A lot.
Goodness. So I was hearing that there was a lot of women and children out there. Is that
Very much. Also, it appears that certain members of the white community who are anti-black have taken this opportunity to come through condensed crowds of black people under the cover of darkness and act out their fantasies of violence. I saw a particular young lady, about 20 years old, stumbling and crying.
Oh, no.
At one of these times when the cops had just threw the smoke bombs and the smoke was filling the air, she said that a white man walked up to her and punched her in the face.
Oh, goodness. So you got the police on one hand and mischief makers within the crowd on the other.
Yes.
I'm assuming that bastard got away. That hopefully not, but
There's a lot of different elements going on at the same time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wow. So the Peacekeepers, you guys were about 12 of you all?
Last night there was about that many.
About 12, yes, sir. And yeah, it's crazy because in the news reports that we're seeing, they're saying that there were Molotov cocktails being thrown at the police. And I think they even talked about looting again. Every person I've talked to thus far hasn't reported any looting yesterday.
No one that I am aware of saw any Molotov cocktails. After the crowd had been pushed back several blocks by these rounds of tear gas and rubber bullets, there was a bit of looting out of frustration because the spirit of the people became one in which we're trying to practice our right to peaceful assembly. That is being taken away from us. So now I'm going to go to my last resort, which is destroying something.
Right.
So a small group of people started to break through the windows and stores.
Okay.
Out of that frustration.
Okay. But that happened after the police attack, not before, correct?
After the police attack, yes.
Okay. Okay. Because I want to clear the air where they try to use that as justification of attacking. And that chronology is important because sometimes they'll try to play it and say, okay, people were looting, therefore we were trying to protect, when in essence, no, they provoked.
There was absolutely no reasonable provocation for them to start the tear gas.
Yes, sir. So the women, the children, how were they responding? I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious they had to be running and pandemonium.
They were running. Yes. There were, there were elderly people out there. I am worried that there were some people who were trampled. I'm not sure. There was so much commotion during the running and the smoke that it's hard to tell. And there were so many people out there. But I really don't see how it's possible that there weren't some people who got trampled in the midst of all that.
Wow. Wow. And there was no news crews out there at this time, correct? That you could see of or that you were aware of?
Not that I saw. No, definitely not. I don't know where the designated area was in media, but it wasn't anywhere near the strip of West Fortune that I walked up and down.
Okay. Okay. And so when this happened, the attack, was it near the Quick Trip at all, or was this further away?
We did pass the Quick Trip, yes.
Okay.
It was a large stretch of West Fortune that this happened on.
Yes, sir.
The street was filled, and they gradually pushed everyone back more and more.
So how did it end?
At a certain point, I don't know which round of tear gas rubber bullets it was, but they pushed back pretty far. And then as the people were moving back toward the initial meeting, the parking area, they also started tear gas and smoke from the other end. So it appeared as if they were trying to trap the people.
Oh.
So most of the crowd at that point ran in any direction they could to get out of there to avoid whatever they were trying to pull off.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I understand some people stuck around and continued to protest later on until the night, but at that point, most of the crowd dispersed and then kind of reconvened after the smoke cleared, literally.
Okay. Yeah, right, literally. So you didn't see any arrests made, or do you know of any or hear of any?
I didn't see any arrests made, no.
Okay. Okay. It was a traumatic experience because I know you came out there to keep the peace. I mean, you guys wore shirts that said peacemakers or peacekeepers. Right. And I commend you and those brothers for standing up for the sisters and the children out there. I mean, that was why I came out when I went down, is because, I saw too few men. There were men, certainly there were men there, but too few, and too many of our sisters and our babies out there.
Yes. I do know that there were others who went with the intention of helping to keep the peace. They went in two smaller groups, groups of 2 to 4, and they were overwhelmed with the crowd and the situation, and they left soon after arriving.
Yes, sir.
I know of a few different groups like that.
Yes, sir. That's a lot, though. Can you guesstimate the crowd size?
Oh, my goodness.
Are we talking in the 50s? Or are we talking in the hundreds? Or are we talking?
It was well over 200 for sure.
Okay. And then you mentioned the police had literal tanks out there.
Yes.
And how large would you guess the police force was?
I never did see the full police force. able to get close enough to tell exactly how many of them there were between the crowd and the smoke and them being further back. We saw the tanks. Saw the representatives come out and attack us.
It's just insane. You're right. Amnesty International sent a investigation squad out there. First time in the U.S. It is. You're right. It's absolutely crazy, absolutely insane. And so did the governor speak today, or do you know if any of the officials spoke today?
I have tried to detach as much as possible from the news today.
Yes, sir.
Trying to process what I saw last night, and still got a plan of action moving forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's
we do know that Governor Nixon lifted the curfew today, so there is no official curfew tonight, and the National Guard has been deployed.
So they're there now.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm clear from what I've seen of what exactly the role of the National Guard will be. I am afraid that things will only get worse with their presence, because in the spirit that I saw last night, many of the people have reached such a level of angst.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Their whole agenda is, I am tired of being told what to do unlawfully by these cops. Whatever they want me to do, I'm going to do the opposite.
So they're
if they stay away, then I'm staying.
So they're
no
fed
matter
up.
What.
Right. Yes, sir. Which will only, in essence, incite this anger from these police and from the National Guard.
Right.
I saw it was Representative John Conyers, Coyers, I forgot how you pronounce his last name, but he asked for martial law to be declared. You know, he said under the guise of policing the police, but martial law is not about policing police. Martial law is, yeah. And I know they declared a state of emergency so they can bring the National Guard in. So, yes,
right.
it's
the only way to diffuse this situation would be to leave the people alone. To let them express their anger in whatever way they see fit until it diffuses. The police repression is only feeding the fire in the people.
Right.
And I don't believe the National Guard will help that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So they released the autopsy report yesterday.
Yes.
Said he was shot once in the eye, once in the top of the head. And they had a drawing in the press release, and they showed, the areas on the body where he was shot. I think it was 8 times. And, and I think that incited people even more. I mean, that angered people even more to see that. Yeah. So, okay. And, justifiably. I'm sorry?
I shouldn't have been surprised by the autopsy report because it is consistent with what the eyewitnesses have said.
Exactly.
So they told us that he was shot at the car while struggling, while being choked, basically, by the police officer. He was shot at again as he was trying to run away. He turned around and put his hands up, declaring that he was unarmed, and please don't shoot me, and then was shot again, and then the cop walked up on him and shot him some more. That's consistent with the pattern of the bullet.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
3 different people I heard who basically gave that same story. No surprise.
No surprise there. But that validation, because the police gave a different account, and to have it validated from the eyewitness testimony, I think it's significant. And the mothers, I heard the family, they said, what left there is for them to do but arrest this officer?
Yeah.
That might actually cool it down a little bit if they actually brought this man in. What do you think about that?
There's clearly enough evidence to arrest Officer Wilson. He should be arrested. The police chief of Ferguson should be forced to resign. And that might be a start.
Right.
In terms of calming the anger of the people. However, the issue is now bigger than just Darren Wilson or Chief Tom Jackson. They were the straw that brought the camel's back. I'm looking at MSNBC, and Brother Paul Muhammad, the leader of the Peacekeepers, is now about to come on all in with Chris Hayes. They're interviewing him right now live on the scene.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, yeah, I just chatted with him. He let me know that, too. I'll be interviewing him later, too. So you want to go ahead and watch that, and then we can...
No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, people were initially set off by what happened to Michael Brown. However, at this point, based on the week of extreme and unprovoked repression, people have a whole new set of things to be angry about. So justice for Mike Brown might not cut it.
Right. That's a good point. Excellent point. So the question is there, the police chief resigns or is forced out. Officers arrested. Curfew's lifted. I don't think that curfew meant anything, and I don't think lifting it means anything because they attacked you all 3 hours before curfew.
Right.
So I don't think lifting a curfew, the curfew itself was irrelevant because they didn't even give you a chance to even get to the curfew.
Exactly.
So then the broader question is, you have people like yourself, myself, and others coming from other cities now being affected, being so moved that, we have to be there and do what we can do. Is there a way out of this? Is there a way to settle the storm or we said justice for Mike Brown might not cut it, but is there anything that can be done that could, beyond the officer, beyond the police chief, that could?
Yeah. I believe there is a plan that can resolve most of the issues here. I'm not at this time ready or willing to discuss them on public record.
Yes, sir.
I believe that they are a matter of strategy that should be discussed behind closed doors and presented in a strategic way.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And let me ask this, because this is something that kind of disgusted me with our president. As soon as Robin Williams committed suicide, statement right away.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Brown murdered, left for dead for hours in the street. Like a dog, just like a rabid animal. No statement for almost 6 days until there was looting, until there was so much outcry that he was forced to make a statement because the travesty and the abuse of the protesters was being seen around the world. And then finally there was a statement being made. I have to say, personally, I was disappointed in him with respect to that. But it does look like the Justice Department is trying to do something. They ordered an independent investigation. And I think Attorney General Eric Holder told them to consider adding more blacks to the police department. and remove the damn tanks. I think he did say the damn tanks. Get rid of those. Yeah.
I this incident is consistent with the administration of Barack Obama. There's a clear difference between candidate Obama, President-elect Obama, and President Obama on the issue of race.
Yes, sir.
It is clear to me that in his heart, he desires to engage the country on the issue of race and attempt to heal the historic wounds associated with race. When he was president-elect, he gave a historic address in Philadelphia, I believe, on the subject of race. He gave a historic address to the Muslim world, making overture to them.
Mm-hmm.
And once he assumed his place in the White House, those things stopped.
Sure did.
And since then, he has really avoided race as much as he possibly can.
Yes, sir.
I believe that it has been made clear to him that he is not allowed to be that person while in the White House by those who really control that institution.
Yes, it absolutely does certainly seem that way. And, but, one would think after the second term, there's no more campaigning. But no, you're right. It seems like he was made clear, and whatever use of persuasion was used seems to be very effective.
Very effective.
Yes, sir. So I really want to thank you, Brother Adrian. If there's anything else you want to say, the mic is yours. And
I want to commend the people who have been on the front lines, participated in this resistance. I want to commend the city of St. Louis because the word on the streets for so long has been that St. Louis is a bandwagon city that we follow the lead of other places and don't really have a backbone of sorts.
yes, sir.
This past week has shown that to not be the case. All of the people who have been out there, the people who came out with bottles of milk and Maalox to assist the tear gas victims and people wearing the gas masks, really preparing themselves to deal with the situation tactically. I applaud them. And I especially applaud Tefpo, the local rap star, who has been on the front lines of this fight, standing with the alderman, Antonio French, and others, attempting to gain justice and also maintain the peace and health of the people involved in the protest. He could easily be like other entertainers and limit his involvement in these kind of issues, but he has thrown himself into the fray. And I applaud that.
Yes, sir. Hats off to that.
Yes, sir. The rest of what I have to say will be said behind closed doors or said in public.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I want to thank you, personally. And, because, recording the information and getting, the word out there from the front lines is really important for the people that are not in Ferguson and that are their only source is the news. And, so I definitely appreciate you and sharing that. And of course we'll build outside, off the airways. And,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And I intend on being down there again, this weekend. And, so back on the front lines. And, so again, I want to thank you, brother. I'm going to go ahead and, end this and then I'll get with you off the air,
yes,
later on. So thank you, Brother Adrian,
sir.
and peace.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so we've heard from Brother Adrian, and I applaud him Brother Paul, who we will be interviewing also from the Peacekeepers. He was the leader of the Peacekeepers. Brother Paul is. Brother Adrian was flew into town from across country to help out. He's from St. Louis, like myself, from St. Louis. And we can't see our people getting hurt. We can't see our babies, our women, our children being attacked unprovoked by the police and not be moved by it. And I encourage everybody that can to get down there. We had the Freedom Riders in the 60s when they had laws, segregation laws, and they were protesting. They went down there by the busloads. So now you have violations, clear violations of First Amendment, freedom of assembly rights being violated.